You and your party have located Cragmaw Hideout. You manage to sneak past the guards out front and make your way inside. Heading north along the path beside the gentle stream, you come across a room with 3 wolves. They notice you and begin snarling and snapping at you, loosening the chains more and more with each passing second. Maisie, an elven mage, immediately casts Thunderclap, moving her hands in an intricate pattern before summoning a booming thunderous sound radiating out from her and slamming into the wolves, doing max damage. And within about 8 rounds, your party was TPK'd. Welcome back, my homies. I was designing a dungeon for an upcoming game when I got to thinking about the absurdity of sound in dungeons and how we often handwave the problems associated with it when we send our players deep into a dangerous and often crowded dungeon. And thinking about D&D is fun. So today, let's talk about sound in dungeons. You see, in the first example, Maisie decided to audibly roast the wolves because she got the jump on them and mages got a mage. But the thing is, Thunderclap is loud, by design. It's in the name. Rules as written, it can be heard 100 feet away. Now, as the DM, we have some options for what happens next, but almost all of them requiring varying levels of suspension of disbelief in order to not kill the party. Within a 100-foot radius, that's enough of a noise to bring the entire Cragmaw tribe down on top of them. This is entirely valid. You can see here that the goblins they snuck past outside would move in, blocking their escape. The 6 goblins in Area 6 would move eastwards towards the sound. Above them, in the narrow fissure used as a trash bin by Clark and his buddies, would become a vantage point for the archers to rain arrows down on the party, while Clark and his wolf makes his way around Area 8, through Area 7 and south to intercept the intruders. And this is a completely valid scenario that would likely lead to the party being TPK'd. I could argue probably should just go ahead and run that TPK because the lessons learned will lead to greater immersion in your future games. And this is an extreme example. We could make the same scenario come to play with no actions from the players at all. Just having the wolves see them, start snarling and barking, rattling chains might not alert Clark or the nearby guards, but the wolf upstairs probably would notice if his fuzzy homies downstairs were getting super angry. The wolves are there for a reason, right? They're positioned specifically to see what comes in and out of the cave, and there's no reason why they wouldn't be used as intrusion detection. The thing that gets me is that when we discuss a crypt or a dungeon is that most of them would be extremely quiet. Any noise made, whether it's talking, spells, dropping a sword, would reverberate throughout the enclosed area, bouncing from wall to wall, making stealth near impossible for all but the craftiest of rogues. In the previous example, I intentionally left out the ambient noise of the stream so I could demonstrate the issue. The writers of Lost Mine of Fendelver intentionally put this in as a way to shield low-level, inexperienced players from exactly this scenario. In fact, later on, at Wave Echo, the occasional booming echoing throughout the cavern would serve much the same fashion. It's a little bit of plot armor designed to not have the players be hand-tied by the need to be absolutely silent. Most caves or dungeons aren't going to have this kind of built-in noise to help the players make their way through undetected. Any combat of any type in a room next to a room that monsters are currently standing in would be immediately heard. And fighting is loud. I could even argue that skeletons in a crypt picking themselves up off the ground and moving to another area in search of the intruders would lead to a chain reaction, alerting more and more monsters as they move about. So how do we handle this in games? Well, if one of our players intentionally fires an extremely loud spell like Thunderclap, then they did a thing and we as dungeon masters should react accordingly. Actions without consequences, whether good or bad, is railroading to some degree. The mage is free to use the spell and the world around them is free to react to it. As a last-ditch effort, you could ask them to describe what happens when they cast a spell in hopes that they'll realize the mistake and wish to retcon it. For other more nuanced situations, we as the DM hope that our players at least attempt to exercise some caution, closing doors behind them, drawing monsters into more favorable areas to take them on where they're less likely to be detected by third parties. If the players show any type of thought on this front, then just let them have it within reason. We want our players to be present in the world we are creating, and we want them to feel it is realistic, but we don't want to chain them down with realism to the point that they can't succeed. So we can occasionally overlook realism, but not always. Sometimes even great plans fall through. In fact, in D&D, most of the time great plans fall through. You can almost measure the success of the player's plans simply by just how long it takes them before the wheels fall off. At my table, that's usually a few skill checks. And that's it for this week, my fellow storytellers. Let me know in the comments how you handle sound in dungeons. Check out some of our other videos below and have a killer week. I'll see you guys next time.